This week's episode is brought to you by Campaign Refinery, an amazing new email marketing automation tool. Look, in the world of digital marketing, there's a lot to keep track of. We all know this. As much as we're in love with social media and the power of social conversation here at Social Inc. and on the All About Digital Marketing podcast, we are well aware at just how powerful email marketing can be. Email marketing is not dead. In fact, it's never been more important to help you leverage your presence everywhere else into the one channel that you'll own, regardless of what changes Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform makes in the future. I've known the founder, Travis Ketchum, for years, and he's been a past guest on the podcast, episode 15 if you want to listen to it. I've personally used his other products before, and they've been fantastic. The amount of thought that he's put into each and every one of what he's created has been incredible. I'd highly encourage you to try their free 14-day trial at campaignrefinery.com to see what world-class email marketing automation can do for you and your business. Massive thank you to Travis and Campaign Refinery for their support of the All About Digital Marketing show. Welcome to the All About Digital Marketing podcast. The show all about
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Brought to you by Social Inc., a digital marketing agency specializing in social media and content marketing for brave brands and forward-thinking SMEs. I'm your host, Chris Bruno, and as always, we're here to bring you the most actionable tips, tricks, tools, and insights to help you achieve more when it comes to your digital marketing. Subscribe to the show and be sure to share with a friend if you found something useful or interesting. You can find all the show notes and more information on www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the All About Digital Marketing podcast. Today I wanted to talk about the importance of communication over sales. And this seems like a concept that shouldn't really be something that we need to talk about too much, but actually I find that more and more, especially during these last 8 weeks where lots of European countries have been facing various different forms of lockdown or confinement or anything else, we've noticed this communication pattern that's happened during this crisis that's kind of ended up rubbing people slightly the wrong way. When we all started to receive the emails from everyone, companies that we've worked with once, companies that we worked with years ago, companies that we still work with today, and we started getting a ton of emails explaining to us how these companies were going to continue to work during the COVID-19 crisis, how they were continuing to provide their services, etc. We found it a bit irritating. And it was something that got me thinking a lot about the idea of communication versus sales. Now, during these hard times, there are tons of industries, of businesses, of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, freelancers that have had their lives literally turned upside down. Businesses and industries that just stopped overnight, whether it be things like the education sector, manufacturing sector, hospitality sector, things became really, really challenging. From one day to the next, there was no more prospects. There was no more even lead generation to a certain extent because industries were completely frozen. But during that time, speaking to lots of different entrepreneurs, startups, businesses that are going through accelerators and all sorts of companies, the one thing that was always prevalent was a need to continue to communicate. That got me thinking about the importance of communication over sales. Not just during a crisis period like what we've experienced recently, but actually in general terms. When we talk about marketing, we often talk about adding value, giving value, whether it be through blog articles or social media posts, or how we can sit there and offer our prospects, our leads, as much value as we possibly can. And all of that forms part of this idea of communication over sales. Indirectly, of course, everything is always pretty much working towards generating the bottom line, revenue. That's what we're trying to do. But the way that we go about doing it is by creating blog content, by building an audience, by creating a relationship, by building trust, by bringing people through that customer journey to make sure that at the end they want to buy from us. So during these hard times, when that customer journey has been disrupted, when purchasing decisions are changing, when people aren't sure about what's going to come next, it became prevalent and hugely important to keep those communication channels open, to find ways to continue to communicate with your prospects, keeping to build an audience, understanding that at some point the world will return to some form of a new normal. What can be hard, though, is to realize that this is going to be super important going forward, just as much as it was in the past. Companies that usually try and sell or hard sell to us, they often do get results, but they're not building a brand, they're not building the audience, they're not building that relationship with the audience in the same way. By using communication versus sales, the difference, for example, might be offering a free PDF guide on how to do something that's related to your industry versus doing a buy one, get one free offer. During the last 8 weeks, we've seen a huge amount of businesses changing the way they work. Whether it be starting to accept that remote working is going to form a huge part of the rest of our lives going forward. I know people and friends who won't be going back to the offices in capital cities for the foreseeable future, or at least until next year. And we're realizing that actually the way people interact, the way people consume media and consume information, what people are looking for has also dramatically changed, which is normal. We've all been forced to kind of find our ways to say staying at home, to trying to make the most of our lives, to homeschooling, to whatever it might be. And all of those things have had an impact on our habits, on our decision-making process. And whether we like it or not, I think those habits and those processes that have changed over a prolonged period of time, like 8 weeks, are going to have an impact on people going forward as we start to see lockdown measures being relaxed, businesses reopening, shops reopening, etc. But how can small to mid-sized businesses really communicate with their audience? Well, in the same ways that we would in any other time. If we look and we focus on trying to generate revenue, quite often that's the last thing that we actually end up generating. Trying to just keep pushing, keep selling, hard sell, offers, etc. actually ends up over time destroying the credibility of your brand and being known as a brand that constantly has an offer on. Now, if you constantly have an offer on, the chances are people are waiting for the next offer before they're going to spend their money. You might say that doesn't bother you because you want to get that money in regardless, but brands who have built a real brand around them, who have built that relationship with their audience, who are part of their audience's day-to-day lives, and at this point, think of the big brands in the world such as Apple or Nike or Tesla. All of those brands have a community around them who are so bought in and who are so part of their ecosystem that regardless of what changes happen, regardless of what shifts happen, regardless of what crisis might next befall us all, they're always in the front and center of people's minds, and they're always there to help look after those people. Now, how do those people communicate? How do those companies communicate? Well, more often than not, their CEOs are pretty vocal. Tesla being potentially a bad example of a gung-ho kind of CEO version. But all the other brands are the same. They also talk. They also disseminate information. They also are part of a bigger conversation. They've also built communities around their product. Now, whether that be communities such as for Apple, the whole ecosystem of Apple, whether it be for Tesla, the Tesla Owners Club, which has become rife and filled with people who are absolute diehard fans of their cars and that want to talk to other people that are the same, or whether it be Nike with things like the Running Club or any other of their products that have brought together a mass kind of cult following. All of these things happen through communication, by talking with and explaining to your audience what it is that you do, how it is that you do it, but more importantly, helping them, giving them some value and helping them to understand what's happening. So as shops and businesses start to reopen at the moment, is it important to start banging the sales drum to try and bring in that revenue? Or is it time to really start focusing on how you can communicate better, how you can talk to, how you can have conversations with your audience and your prospects to make sure that you're building a brand that is actually known through good, through bad, during the crises, during the normal times, or normal in inverted commas, when we see what this world looks like in a couple of months or years. But the truth is that brands that build on that communication have a better chance of surviving during these hard times. Something that was really interesting as part of the communication thing, working with a company recently, they were talking to us about the issues of engagement through social media. And this got me thinking about this, and I usually ask a couple of questions. I've been working in social media for the better part of 12, 13 years now. And what I realized more than anything else is most companies don't even invite people to engage. What do I mean by this? Well, communication in general, is usually a two-way thing. I'm not talking about giving a Donald Trump style speech whereby you don't listen to anybody else's input and regardless of anybody else's information, you stick to your lines and what you want to say. But actually what we're looking for is real, genuine, one-to-one or one-to-many conversations. Something that this company ended up implementing was one of their new social media posts after we'd had the conversation was just a simple question. That's all it was. Once the question had gone live, they had more engagement, more comments, more shares on that single post than they had done in the previous month's worth of posts. Let that sink in for a second. By just asking one simple question, their audience became more engaged than it had been for the previous 30 days. So really, it's time to look at how we communicate, what we communicate, and most importantly, remembering that communication is all about two-way conversations. It's not about shouting down a bullhorn at your audience. It's about making them part of your community, increasing those conversations. And by increasing those conversations down the line is where you're going to get the most conversions. If you're willing to put in that effort to create conversations, to build your community, the conversions will come. I repeat that again because I think that's really important to understand. Guys, I hope everyone is staying home and staying safe. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you are, please don't hesitate to leave us a comment, visit the website www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk and get in touch. We'd love to chat. We'd love to find out more about your businesses and, more importantly, how you've been surviving and how you've been managing during the course of these last 8-10 weeks, which have been more than a little crazy. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. The All About Digital Marketing podcast is brought to you by Social Inc., a distributed digital marketing agency specialized in delivering results through online campaigns. Whether it's content marketing, social media marketing, online advertising or web design, we've got you covered, from strategy through to delivery. If you're struggling with your digital marketing, get in touch today by simply visiting www.socialinc.co.